Welcome to Early Nights, soon to be the number one sleep resource in the world. I am your host, Andre Joseph Dutka. Welcome to the show. Today, joining me, I have my mentor, good friend of the last, it's almost been 10 years, Dan MacDonald, the Liferegenerator. Dan the man, thank you for coming on today.
My pleasure, AJ.
Well, I wanted to bring you on because a lot of what I've learned over the last 15 years about health stems from having a consult with you. We talked for probably an hour and 20 minutes. I was at a place where I weighed 113 pounds. I was living with my mom. I had no sex drive. I could not gain any weight. I'm 6 foot tall. And I was just going through a lot of different things and I needed some guidance and some advice. And one of the things that I was going through is I could not sleep through the night. So I'll be waking up 2 to 3 a.m. with severe kidney pain, back pain. And this was happening over a course of 2 weeks where I had to go to the hospital multiple times to get fluids and IVs. And I was going a little bit crazy because I couldn't get a good night's sleep. So now I work in the sleep field, and our focus is helping people to have a good night's rest, to build the quality of their life back up, getting good sleep each night. And so, Dan, you have been a lighthouse for me. And I wanted to ask you some questions about sleep and see if we can help some people.
I'm glad you brought this up because I've
So,
got the recording going here. And, you know, there's a lot of drama when it comes to and confusion when it comes to the diets and the health. And the sleep is overlooked dramatically because what I've learned over the last, especially more recently, and especially with the client that I'm working with right now that has serious health issues because of her sleeping habits, which stem from her work schedule, which then makes it impossible for her to live a natural life after millions of years of being Homo sapien and living, in accordance with the sun before electricity, which is how old is electricity? 120, 150 years. I don't even really know exactly when they produced electricity and then the first light bulb. Well, imagine what changed, like the firelight, the candlelight, that's a different kind of light. And all of a sudden, and even incandescent bulbs are a more of a full spectrum lighting. But imagine the modern era with the dark blue lights and then electricity allowing us to only because what you learn is like when you go camping, I mean, what do? Unless you have a fire going and you're drinking and stuff like that. But when you're camping, the sun goes down, so do you. There's nothing else to do. It's dark. And so now with the electricity, we are able to, and then of course it's progressively always getting worse because now we're staring at our phones, staring at screens. We're not allowing these natural processes of the melatonin to kick in. And we're staying up until, and I'm actually staying at a friend's right now, and she is a late night owl, but here I am, we'll be finishing the movie and it's like 7:30. And what I do is I watch the sunrise every morning. So that keeps now not this morning because we have this interview. So if I have a bad night's sleep, I'm going to blame you, AJ. But every morning I go watch the sunrise, and that sets my circadian biology so that when the sun goes down around here around 7 or 7:30 and it gets dark, my brain just stops, and we're in the middle of a movie and she's like, let's keep going, let's watch another one. And I'm like, mm. So now she is going to bed because she's watching me. She knows I'm a health influencer. She's been watching me for years. So she sees me go to sleep. Then I get up hella early to have meditation, and then I go watch the sunrise right after that. And so what I'm saying is that circadian biology is what keeps us healthy on many, many, many levels. And now I'm seeing her get healthier. She's a raw foodist and everything, but now that she's getting more earlier sleep, because I'm setting an example and setting a field, she's feeling better. She's looking better. She's getting healthier, not because of any other change other than the sleep. So that's a short synopsis of the profound effects sleep has, and the people like, I'll sleep when I'm dead and all that crap. Well, you'll shut your life off about 10 or 15 years. So either you sleep every night and add 10 or 20 years to your life, or you think, I'll sleep when I'm dead, let's go party. You'll shorten your life. So if you get good sleep, not only will you live longer, but you'll also have more quality, better days. I mean, when you don't get a good night's sleep, it sucks. You are not happy the next day. So,
Yeah, it's a cheat code. It's I tend to think like there's people who are alcoholics or people who are addicted to, let's say, smoking weed, and they do it so often they don't even remember what it's like to feel good, to feel sober, to feel healthy again. And when you start to get consistent sleep, you'll be like, what did I wait for? I thought staying up and watching the Netflix or, hanging out with friends and this and that was worth it, when really I could wake up every day feeling like the whole day was enjoyable, not just the evening where you get the little bit of fun.
yeah, because you kind of finally wake up
Hmm.
at night because you've loaded yourself up with stimulants, and then you start getting out of balance. If you can get it back to waking up with the sun and going to sleep with the sun, the profound effects on the brain, which then, of course, that's going to affect the gland system. And if you get a rhythm going, you just stay in tip top shape, you know?
Yeah. And you had mentioned that the blue light is one thing that's keeping us up, the stimulants. Like, what are some things that people are doing that are really giving them a bad night's sleep? And what are some actions they can take so that they can improve their sleep maybe in the next 24 hours or even in the next week?
Well, I think, like I said a minute ago, the worst thing is to have a graveyard night shift.
Hmm.
You will always be stressed, always be unhealthy, always be on stimulants if you have that night shift. So that's kind of the first thing is like for me, just personally, I would never do that to myself because health is no amount of money you could never pay me enough money to be miserable. That would be stupid, right? But I know, but I don't mean to be derogatory in that sense because some people are kind of trapped, sort of. They think they are because the slave schedule, if you will, how they got us on this, everything's like a subscription now. So every month you're grinding out just to make your nut. And somehow we all agreed that this was a good system. And so people are just on the wheel with 30 every 30 days, rent, your phone bill, blah, blah, blah. So you find the night shift job, you get home at 3 in the morning, then you can't get to sleep till 7. Then I mean, can you really sleep during the day? No, because the field is when everyone else is awake, and nature and the birds and everything. So there's a field of energy that you're completely going against. So that's the like kind of like the first thing is to find a schedule or to live a life like a human being who is we are day creatures. There are animals that are nocturnal animals that hunt at night, but we are not that. We are sunlight animals.
We're
So
also animals that are designed to sleep through the night, but also sleep during the hottest part of the day, and that's what a nap is. And how often are people able to take a rest or naps when they're working, a full schedule? It's also
that's
difficult.
because I'm not much of a napper,
Yeah.
but I have been lately because I was in Washington and it was just cold and rainy. Now that I'm back here in Hawaii, I'm on the beach for an hour or two, just taking a nap, trying to get rid of these dastardly tan lines, because I really feel like the only true sin in life is tan lines. And if you have no tan lines, then you're living proper, you know.
And how is it being back in Hawaii?
Everything has its pros and its cons. One of the cons here is how expensive everything is. It's like double. Housing is double. The food is double, unless you're lucky like me and you get like, guess how much these oranges were? Zero. I get to harvest because I planted a bunch of orchards here and there, and I harvest the coconuts. So I do save a lot of money, and it's the best food. So I have some distinct advantages that I climb the coconut trees, and most of
Yeah,
my
I've
diet.
seen it firsthand.
Yeah, that's
When I
right.
was in Hawaii, yeah. I
Right, right.
watched you climb the tree and throw them down. I was carrying them back to the truck. It was a pretty cool
Yeah,
experience. Yeah.
exactly. So that makes up about half of my diet. But currently, I'm looking for a house, and on this island, it's very difficult to find a nice house that isn't, it's the housing here is a crisis.
Mm.
So that's one of the downsides. It's a little lonely too, in the sense of, on the mainland, you can just zip here, zip there, get this, get that. Over here, we have a Costco and a Walmart, but other than that, you got to order a lot of stuff. So there's pros and cons, but ideally though, the weather is good here, year round. Ideal human weather where I'm pretty much barefoot year round and shirtless. So that's really good for your health. And the other thing that's really good about this island is that this island at 8 o'clock, it stops. This isn't like, oh, we're in Phoenix or Seattle and the freaks come out at night and keep the field alive. Everything here is done at 8 o'clock. There's nothing left. Everything is closed, and this island makes you go to sleep. Now you can use the electricity and stuff, but the overall field of this tropical island, it just puts you to sleep. And so that's a really good thing.
What I've noticed about Hawaii, I've been to Hawaii twice. I've stayed in Oahu at Mike Arnstein's house in 2019. And then I had the pleasure of staying with you and Jillian on Kauai in 2024. Sleep just came very, very naturally. I didn't have to have any kind of routine. I didn't have to do my, special systems to get myself motivated to go to sleep. It was more at 7 o'clock. You had a full day, you had the sun, you got the fresh air, you climbed the mountain, whatever, and you just wanted to go to bed. And I think that's something a lot of people can't even remember what that's like because they know they have to go to bed, but they don't really want to.
Hmm, that's interesting. So that brings up a couple of good points. The exercise. If you don't get exercise, you won't be able to sleep as well. And the other thing too is just, you know, the most intelligent people make sleep a religion, you know? And you're right. Let's go out and party with our friends and then have one bad day tomorrow and then take a couple more days to get caught up so that we can be running on all eight cylinders. But if you live the life like I do, unless something crazy happens, you got to travel and you don't get in until 3 in the morning and you got to take a couple of days. But where you get where you're going and you set that schedule. Like I'm religious about it. My friends know about it, you know, and they are envious of my religious adherence to sleep because I learned long ago with all the partying and stuff that your brain gets burned out and you have crappy days and then it's hard to get sober off of whatever stimulants you're using to get through the day. If your goal is to be sober, you have to sleep because you have to have optimum brain function to stay off the coffee. You know how we justify coffee, it's a superfood, biohacking, it's a stimulant.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why you're tired. We, want to talk about the diet. If you eat a good, clean, energizing diet, you get good sleep. there should be no reason for you to be borrowing from Peter to pay Paul with your adrenals by drinking. And, I don't mean to put anything down, but I'm glad I don't have to touch coffee. I've watched my ex-wife, and now then my daughter became a barista. Now they can't function without a drug.
Yeah.
I am like, no way. If I see that I'm addicted to something, that is the beginning of the end. I'm going to find a way to beat the coffee, the drinking, the drugs, the cigarettes, even the phone scrolling. I'm like, it's making now there's a new thing, which I came up with as far as I know, which is social media and technology sickness. I never heard anyone else say it. And then I made a video about it. And then I just made another video about it more in depth on the Patreon, the Elite Video Club. And, I'm just one of those super sensitive beings. And, I practiced all these different austerities and stuff so I can be as sharp as I can be for spiritual purposes. And you get to see, like, you'll go a little while off the phone and then you get back on there and your day is just ruined
Hmm.
because of all the negative downsides to it, which are plugged into the technology, the social media, the scrolling that it makes you addicted to it so that they can sell you advertisement. It used to be about, hey, AJ, 10 years ago, cool, how you doing, man? I'm in Hawaii. I just climbed a coconut tree. Here's a picture of me drinking a coconut. It's not that anymore. Now it's just how can they keep you there so they can sell you advertising time. So it's changed a lot. And then there's just the blue light, which affects your eyes, the radiation, and all of these things have a profound effect too on your sleep. If you can turn the Wi-Fi off at night, you will sleep better.
Yep.
If
Let me jump in there
Yeah,
because on the first video I saw of you was a video you talking about cancer, and you went through a list of things, fresh air number one, and you just went down the list of things to improve your health. And one of them was sleep on there, and you talked about turning off the Wi-Fi. And so I turned it off that night and I had dreams again. And I hadn't even realized I hadn't been dreaming. It had
yeah,
been so long. And so I directly, have experience with that where if I'm on a farm and the farm has like no signal out there, no cell phone signal and stuff, I was on a farm in Moultrie, Georgia, and I slept the best I ever slept in my life every night. And I was excited to sleep because there was no signals out there, minimal Wi-Fi, all that kind of stuff. And they turn the Wi-Fi off at night as well. But that's a big one. And a lot of people laugh that off. I was in an interview and I talked about that, and all the comments were like, the Wi-Fi, oh my God, tin hat, all this stuff. But just try it.
yeah. There was a guy, he looked at me like tin hat yesterday at Verizon, because honestly, I mean, I had to have my friend wake up this morning early to turn the Wi-Fi on, which I appreciate because I do sleep well. And there's a downside of that for me too, because my business is uploading to 4 different websites every day. So I have to have Wi-Fi. So I have to have I get it. But it's like once you go to bed, though, the best thing to do would be to turn it off. Like I understand the need for Wi-Fi for all of us, but so it's just a matter of getting, your system into place with turning off the Wi-Fi. Now you've got neighbors and everything else, but just because people can't see it with their eyes, but they don't understand, like most people probably don't understand that trees give off a frequency and trees release chemicals that are good for us. So not only are there, energetic wave frequencies emanating off the trees in the forest, but they're also producing like little microbes and other chemicals that are beneficial for our mental health that get into us and act as a catalyst for biochemistry and metabolism, as well as microbiological transformation of energy. So just because the people we've become numb because our food numbs us, the drugs numb us, the concrete numbs us, school numbs us, and we're just deadened. And so when you start doing these other things to wake the system up that you need to do to become a spiritual being, to connect with source so that you can really have the fulfillment of life, and so we try to get all this stuff and it just doesn't work. But the real fulfillment comes when your temple is well rested, clean, your glands, organs, brain, nerves, skin, tissue are sensitive, and you can connect with the source energy. That's the overflowing fulfillment. That's why I said in yesterday's video that emptiness leads to fulfillment, because we sludge up and slog up our whole body and we just become numb and desensitized, and we lose many of these apparatus that will keep us awake. It's our awareness gets numb. And I was thinking about like awareness is the key. Like if you're aware, you'll watch what you do that leads to either unhealthy sleep or good sleep. And if you pay attention, you can create that. And I've learned how to do that because, I had to learn how to be religious with my sleep because of things that happened to me in childhood. And it happened to all of us, but some of us got more damaged by the pediatricians than others. And if we don't get that sleep, then we will not be able to function well, and we will lose our health, and we will not be happy, and we will lose our reproductive capacity. We will lose the neurochemistry in our brain that leads to balance and well-being. That's why there's unbelievable amounts of depression, anxiety, and then stinking thinking, doom and gloom. I mean, almost all of the influences are doom and gloomy, but that comes from here as well. I'm of the opinion that if you eat this fresh living foods that's alive, then you have kind of a life consciousness. And then all the doom and gloomers are like, it's going to be the end of the world, the end of the world. And you're like, how long have we been talking about the end of the world? It's like, you might want to pay your phone bill, because here we are still going. Because I think people like me and the spiritual masters, we know that God isn't going to stop just because our gut gets filled with doomy, gloomy thoughts, or just the sludge that then leads to the doom and gloom thinking. And of course, people make money from, doom and gloom, which is the end of the world scenario, and buy this new packages of food and things, which I suppose is a good idea, but pretty soon you'll get used to the more light comes into your mind, and you're just like, I'm going to pay the phone bill, and I'm going to assume that since we're still here after thousands of, like, that's the human story, is like it's the end of the time, the end of the days. But that's just because of what's going on inside their gut and inside their mind. And if you can fast and detoxify and cleanse and heal and regenerate and live in harmony with the law, of which sleep is one of them, and sleep is the result of eating and exercise. So the less you eat, the less sleep you'll need. But I still don't recommend. Now that comes later on, like in a water fast. At first, when you water fast, your sleep actually gets better. Then you realize, here's another point to make, that the food that you eat, if it's highly stimulating and spiced in the evening, your nervous system will be affected by that all through the night as it's digesting that spicy, stimulating food, and it won't allow the nervous system to really. That's why simple, plain food in the evening that isn't excessively stimulating, which of course, people go to the restaurant, they eat very stimulating food, they go home on the date, they do it with each other, then they stay up late. The stimulating food causes, to irritate the reproductive glands, leading to, like, usually promiscuous, unconscious sex, but it can also stimulate the nerves that makes it difficult for you to get a real deep night's sleep. And so also you want to make sure that that you go to bed on an empty-ish stomach because like if you eat a little earlier, so there's a system that I've found works really well. I like to eat around 4 or 5. Then when you go to bed at 7 or 8, you know, the food is almost, you know, the bulk of the work is done.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because, you know, the first hour or two after the meal is the majority of the work where it's trying to break down the carbs, proteins, and fats. But
Yep.
if you eat lighter, simpler food, and it's almost all the hard work is done, then when you sleep at night, your body can do a lot more. The vital force can go to repair and regeneration.
And you can breathe better as well. And so, like
Another,
laying there, your sinuses aren't inflamed and swollen. So you can breathe through your nose. You can breathe deeper, relax. I'm sure
yeah,
a
well,
lot of
that
people are
all,
laying down in fight or flight because their body's still, being hyperactive from when they ate.
true. So there's a lot of things you can do about that. Number one, the more simple food, of course. You know, moderate fat. Because if you eat a lot of fat late at night, that's the kind of thing you'll deal with is the lymphatic system will be kind of blocked up. So light, fresh, wholesome, natural, plain food, you know, reasonable and very conscientious while eating it. But then there was something else that you brought up there.
With breathing.
Yeah, and so I was just thinking what that made me think of is some kind of pre bed kind of ritual. Mine is basically just a shower and brush my teeth. And then I have a thing where I'm just, you know, by 7:30 or 8, I'm just done for because of the way I watch the sunrise every morning. So my circadian biology is really healthy. If you can get it like that, then you're going to be stoked. Like if you watch the sunrise every day, then it's a whole cascade of melatonin and that orange hue starts the process of setting yourself up for a good night's sleep that evening. But if you have trouble, you can always just, you know, turn the lights down super low, turn off all the screens, and, you know, you can either stretch or meditation is really good. And it just has to be whatever 5 or 10 or 15 minute stretching routine on the floor or a 5 or 10 or 15 minute meditation routine just to bring you back and to ground the energy. And if you make it a habit, it'll be one of the best habits that you have. You know, I know there's kids and everything like that to consider too. But if you can even get your kids to sleep religiously by creating
Yeah,
a
make them
good,
a part of it, right?
yes, exactly. Instead of making it a fight, just try to explain to yourself and everyone else what a blessing sleep is. And what sleep, the real blessing of sleep that is the most important part. So, like, as you evolve spiritually, there's less and less friction in your day-to-day life as you surrender everything to the source. But a lot, I mean, human beings have a lot of friction in this day and age with the duality, as I like to call it. You know, it's pleasant and then it's unpleasant, and today it's great, and tomorrow sucks. And you're just always on this roller coaster ride. But the more you come to the center and evolve spiritually, the less of that conflict. But the beauty of sleep is that you get to leave this domain of duality where there's so much friction. So when you sleep, you go back to the source energy, and then that allows the system to reset completely. Otherwise, and everyone knows this too, if you miss sleep, your brain burns out. You have to get out of your head. And that's one of the ways we do that is when we sleep, we get to leave the body mind complex, which is constantly just beating you up with thoughts and worries and fears and desires. And so that can really burn the system out because the real true inner source energy is peaceful. It's almost perfectly still.
Hmm.
You get to go back into that stillness, back into that silence. And that's what keeps the body from frying itself up from all those, obtrusive thoughts and fears and that friction. So that's ultimately, you know, what sleep is to escape the matrix for a while so
Yeah,
that
the
you,
actual one. Yeah.
yeah, well, there's several layers to the matrix, but you have your own inner matrix. There's the outer matrix, but you have your own inner matrix as well that you also, as you evolve, you'll just be like, sure, Mr. Mind, I know you're worried about everything, but guess what? We're still here. So if you don't mind, I'm just gonna put these worries to the side because they never end up transpiring into anything.
So we spoke on the blue light, the EMF, the Wi-Fi, the cell phones. On the other side of that is going to be the grounding, the fresh water, feet in the grass. You are someone who I would consider like a grounding master because, when I was in Hawaii with you, you're barefoot everywhere. A lot of people don't really take that too serious when it comes to health. They'll drink their smoothie, they'll do certain things. Maybe they even take sleep seriously, but how important is grounding? How important is it to be in the ocean or have those abilities to take like become part of the earth?
Well, that's a really good question. That's why I really do. That's another one of the pros of living here, is that I do. This island is so gentle that you can go everywhere barefoot. And what's cool, except for Costco, it's the only place you can't go. You got to put shoes on in Costco, but everywhere else, Safeway, no shoes, no problem. So, um, there is a lot of negative charge that builds up in people, carpets, concrete, and you're just frantic with all your stimulants and drugs and Wi-Fi and concrete and noises. But when you go stand on the earth, that grounds you out and you connect your feet to the electromagnetic energy field of the earth, and it goes right up into your cerebral spinal system and balances all that chaotic energy. So if you jump in the ocean, for example, or a river, or stand barefoot on the grass, it neutralizes all that negative energy instantly. One of my favorite things is waterfalls or cold flowing rivers. The ocean, though, you can be kind of grumpy, laying on the ground, and you're like, oh, these punks on social media are giving me a hard time, or Google sucks, they're taking away my algorithms, and but as soon as you jump in the ocean, you just smile and laugh because it just neutralizes all that negativity instantly. And so when you go and you stand, this is the cheapest way is to go find some grass and just stand on the grass barefoot. And within just minutes, you'll start to feel the transformation of all that negative, frantic, unresolved energy get balanced by the power of Mother Earth.
I don't think I've ever told you this, but for years, probably for the last 7 years, if I'm ever feeling overwhelmed, if I'm ever feeling like I'm worried about how much money I got to make, etc., I ask myself, what would Dan do? And I put a chair out in the backyard and I put my feet in the grass. I keep my phone inside and I just sit there for an hour. And my not only does the discharge help, but just processing all the thoughts and emotions instead of intaking and listening to YouTube and taking in more information, my body just completely unwinds. And I always say, what would Dan do in this situation?
Wild. Well, I'll tell you what I would do is I would get more and more intelligent as time went on.
Mm.
And I would start to see that the information age, of course, I'm not going to bemoan it because you're like, how do I change this little thing on my truck?
Yeah.
And there's a video on there, right? So that the information age is good, but now it's becoming excessive. And I think people are picking up on it because they're not joining the Elite Video Club as much. They're not watching as many videos anymore. There's a lot of people leaving social media because it's too much information. And now what we're doing is a trend that I'm starting here myself, which is, this is the future, which I'm revealing it now. I hesitate to do so because there'll be a bunch of Steelers like they always get the DTM because he's always on the cutting edge. But people are going to want to unwind. They're going to want to get the hell off the internet. They don't want any more information. And in fact, the secret to life is no more information, no more books, no more learning, no more should I go vegan or carnivore? But it's really a dumping of all that and clearing it away and surrendering the ego, the mind, the concepts, the information, and coming back to the center of yourself, which is already the happiness and the joy and the peace and the bliss. That's our true nature, which underlies all this excessive information and pressure to perform and all these programs that are put in there. Get more stuff, get more smarter, because what it does is it just bogs you down from actually experiencing a perpetual sense of wellness instead of, oh, you get the new car, you're happy. I just bought a new car. So yeah, it's like you're kind of like, this is cool because it's got more horsepower, twice as much horsepower as my last car, and it handles way better. So there's a little happiness there. I get it. But eventually that goes away and you're going to have to come back to the same thing with like, oh, you're in a new relationship and you're spinning with, hormones. And then eventually you start to see, okay, this person poops and farts too, and gets grumpy. And then, so all those external accomplishments and pleasures, if you will, like if you keep overeating, it might be kind of fun for a while, but eventually you're going to get kind of chubby
Yeah.
and a little sluggish. So what brought you pleasure is now going to lead to pain. And the more evolved you get, the quicker you go from that pleasure pain. Then when you get really aware, you're knowing that this pleasure is going to equal pain. So the pleasure is already equaling pain because you already have been here 100 times. And
Mhm.
when you finish this pizza, you're going to be bloated and you're going to regret it. After you eat the box of cookies, as you're eating it, at first you're just stoned. You just want the cookies. But then as you evolve, you're like, I've already done this 50 times. I know I'm going to feel like crap when I'm done with this box of cookies. So as you're enjoying your pleasures, you already are starting to experience the pain. So the more evolved you get, the more you associate those short-term, quick fix social pleasures with the pain that is sure to come. So that's why I say when you empty yourself, that's more fulfillment because you could just sit there with nothing
Mhm.
and feel the joy of just being. Now, this is a pretty advanced level, and the society. I got there because it was just so much pain. Because I did all the pleasures with the drugs and the women and yeah, I even got a little bit famous for a while there, and then that becomes a drag, you know. And so all that pain pushes you back to try to find something that's real, that isn't on the edge of losing it, right? You know what I'm saying? So, because when you have something, now you're afraid to lose it, and then as you get more and more aware, so you're trying to find just peace with the emptiness or peace with just the source. So peace itself, which I'll admit, peace is a little bit boring, but at least you're not irritated, aggravated, anxious, paranoid, afraid, uncomfortable, disheveled,
Yeah,
and
you
you can.
might not have the super high highs, but you also don't have those dangerous lows.
it kind of like that. And it just, I can understand why when you're younger
Mhm.
that you resist that. But as you get more mature, you're like, oh, a day without drama
Mhm.
is like a treasure to your heart, a
Yeah.
day where something doesn't break or there's not some kind of catastrophic event, you know, or even again, those high highs, which as you get wiser, you realize, you know, will end up being the low lows. And so what you're trying to find is some kind of nice centering where you can just enjoy life, serve others, serve yourself, serve God, be grateful without having to like stimulate and then enervate and then stimulate and enervate. And the system gets wore out. The more you come to the center and stay balanced with, sleep being just one of the spokes on the wheel, there's 11 others, 7 others, but it depends on the hub of the wheel is God. And then you got to get the spokes all need to be even so that the wheel turns smoothly. Because if one, you might have a ton of money. Like some people have a ton of money, but no health.
Yeah.
So that spoke is like way too long. And it's like it causes a problem. So you could have too much money in relation to your sleeping habit or your right livelihood or your diet, so you can have tons of money but no health. What good is it? You can't even enjoy life without health.
And that's something we spoke about a week or two ago. I was talking with you about that very thing because when I got into the corporate world, it became more attractive to have things like a coffee because you're not living your life purpose in a sense. So if you take this drug, you can get through the day and you wake up and you think to do this again, but then you sip on that drug and it's like, I can get through this now. I can take my calls. I can do things to just get through the motions. And that's how I got a, bad relationship with coffee. I never even drank coffee until I got into corporate sales.
Yeah, well, that is interesting because that's the big one. That's a lot of courage for like my client, for example, that we began talking about, for her to take the courage and find a job where she can work during the day.
Mm.
Because she wants to go over diet and other things like that. And I'm like, I'm telling you, we can talk about your diet all day, but unless you get sleep and get your circadian biology, your glands balanced, the pain won't go away. You need that good sleep at those allotted hours because there's actually a system to the body and the brain detoxify in the first couple of hours of sleep. And if you miss that window from like 8 to 10, you don't get that brain regeneration. Then it moves on to your kidneys. Oh,
That's
so you
why that's why I called the show Early Nights because it's really about those beginning hours. There's lots of people who go to bed at 1 in the morning and they'll sleep the 8 or 10 hours, but you don't get the rest as if you go to bed at 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock. I think the latest someone should go to bed is like 9:30. If you go to bed at 10, I think that's too late.
That's right. Yep, because when the sun goes down, that's the beginning. It does your brain, then it does your kidneys, and it does your liver in these 2 hour time slots. So that, and then you wake up in the morning and everything is clean, especially when you get on the lighter, clean diet and don't overeat too much at night. And then you just start waking up every day feeling good. I get up at 5, meditate for an hour, then I go straight out, watch the sunrise, and walk along the path. And I park at the yoga, then I walk all the way back. Then I do a yoga class from 8:30 to 9:30. And then usually I'll do a consult, so I'm like done because I do one consult a day. And so I'll just be done with work, by 8:30 in the morning, right?
Yeah, that's a hack. Yeah.
Yeah, but then I've got my filming and videos, which is more of a creative process, and so it sounds a little bit crazy when you say it that way, but then you have the whole day, and you can take a nap. I know I wish I had the secret formula
Mm.
for how to live a life, but it is courage and it is faith and it is prioritizing on, living in alignment with the laws of nature and then building your life around that. Most of us build our lives around the laws of society, 9 to 5, grind. But if you're a rebel like I am from the very beginning, then you're going to find what you need, and you're going to build your life around that. And
Right.
those are the rare ones indeed. And then you build a life where you make money around your biological rhythms. And anyone can do that, especially in America. That's why America's awesome. But anywhere in the world, you can do that. Takes a lot of courage, though, and faith. And that would be another whole long conversation.
Mm.
But if you surrender and have faith and you put your priorities first, you'll develop a great life around those priorities, like sleep, for example. There's no amount of money you can pay me to miss sleep, to be unhealthy, because that would be stupid. I'd rather be dead broke and healthy than rich and sick. So every day is just a miserable slog. Think of it.
Yeah. And it's something you can't ignore. Just like oxygen. We need the oxygen. We can't pay our way out of that, right? We need our sleep. I found this photo I wanted to show you. So when we first had talked, it was 2018. It was probably around October. And this is a picture of me. We did a phone call, so you didn't see it, but this was a picture of me back then.
Wow.
So I couldn't grow any hair. Uh, I was probably 60, 70 pounds less than I am now. Couldn't eat anything, couldn't digest anything. And you got me on the green juice, you got me on the meditation, you got me on the Pyridine protein, and I gained like 40 pounds, even though I didn't increase my calories. So that's where I came from. And that was 8 years ago now.
Wow. Come a long way, dude. That's
Yeah.
awesome, because that picture does not look good.
No,
That's like cancer, AIDS
yeah.
based style.
Yeah. No, I couldn't even grow leg hair. My legs were bald because my circulation was so bad.
What do you think was the main thing that what would you say if you had to give it one thing?
Mm.
What do you think that it was that switched you up?
I think my nervous system was just so wrecked that like my other functions couldn't do what they had to do. Like because my nervous system was so wrecked, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't digest, I couldn't get hydrated because my fight or flight was like getting rid of all of my electrolytes, pissing all the time. Like I could eat like an apple or even a banana and I would piss 10 times. And it's like, that's not like eating a whole watermelon, you know? But my body would go into fight or flight like crazy. I think my adrenal glands were really rocked.
So, do you think that maybe the green juice fed you some nutrition that you needed to kind of switch it up, or what ended up being the thing that helped your nervous system to relax?
I think because I was on living foods, but I was doing more of the detox side of it. So more of the aggressive with the fruit and the herbs for so long. And still like I was seeing things improve, but I wasn't ultimately able to recover. When you insisted on the green juice, I was getting something that was lower sugar so my body could process it. And then you were like, don't be scared of fat and don't be scared of some of the pyridine protein because your body is in need of it. And you're in Jersey, air quality isn't good, brake dust, all this stuff. You need some cushion. And so I went out and got a salad, and my body felt like I got my sex drive back with that one salad, actually.
It's all starting I remember now. Now it's all starting to come back. Right. And you've told me some of this also, but and I've had that happen many times where I had to convince some of my clients to eat the forbidden foods,
Mm.
because when you're like, oh my God, it's my fat percentages are 1% over, and you could stick a coal up someone's butthole and they'd get a diamond out in like 10 seconds. That's how tight they are around the food trip. And I'm like, relax, man. Go get some grub. That's the other side of the story too.
Mm.
Like if you can be disciplined with your food through experience and make a conscious choice, like I live off coconuts, orange juice, and then have some kind of little tiny either fruit meal or salad at night. So I eat really light, but I used to be pretty tight too. I wanted to eat the fresh rolls at the Thai restaurant, so I'd be walking back and forth, sweating bullets. The rice paper's not totally raw, And of course, I found out years later that it had sugar in it, and I was on a sugar-free diet, but I didn't want to know what was in the peanut sauce because it was really the peanut sauce that I wanted. The
Mm.
fresh rolls were fresh. This is when I first went raw, and I would still use food as a drug, and so I'm walking in front of the Thai restaurant, just trying to stay raw. The little rice wrap paper wasn't raw, and I knew the peanut sauce wasn't raw. I didn't really think of the sugar at the time. That came years later. But I would be so tight around food. And so that's also another thing too, because it's one thing to have like a dietary concept like raw food, like, oh, every animal in nature eats raw food. So it's kind of like, yeah, but then if you tighten up around that and you don't give yourself time to realize, well, grandpa and grandma made pancakes on Sunday, and I've been doing that for, whatever, 27 years, and now all of a sudden I see this new raw food concept. You've been having pancakes every Sunday with your grandparents for 27 years, and all of a sudden you try to stop that, and then now you're like, I can't eat the pancakes. You kind of have to really be relaxed too at the same time. And that's the reason why I think I'm able to, you know, be as disciplined as I am now, because I've relaxed around it a lot, tried a few different things, and I was like, okay, cool. It's nice to have that relaxation and not be paranoid about food, cooked food or whatever.
Yeah.
As like a raw food guy, most people aren't even thinking that way yet, but there's a lot of truth to that. That'd be a whole nother conversation that we could do some other time. But
Yeah.
I've had clients that were really trying to do what you were doing, Durian Rider and all that stuff in the 80-10-10 crowd. And, it's can be kind of tight. I don't think Doug Graham is too tight because that's a good program, but people get too tight. And that's the other side of the equation of what we're talking about today, especially around the food thing. You don't want to be afraid of foods either. And then, you'll have these women, they'll write to me all the time, or friends that are like vegan or plant-based, but then they'll tell me, I won't even mention what it is, but they'll just go off the rails just for a minute at a certain time of the month and not tell their other vegan girlfriends what they're doing because they don't want them to know that they just had this one little thing on the side just because their body wanted it,
Yeah.
you know, and everyone just needs to relax around the food thing and then just let awareness itself just like try this, try that, and you'll be like, oh, okay, that doesn't work for me. But at least you get rid of all that tightness. And I've had that happen. God, I had another guy, he was like 96 pounds for years. And finally, I'm like, I suggested something, non-vegan, just because I just thought, man, this is desperate. We're like desperate. And he finally actually, you know, a couple years later, I told him, maybe you want to try a little something. Don't tell your vegan friends or whatever. He's like, I can't do that. I'm a hardcore vegan. Finally, though, about a year later, he has another consult with me. And he's like, I did what you said. I had the little non-vegan snacks. It wasn't even, it's probably less the nutrition as much as it was him just letting go for a second and relaxing around food. And then he gained a bunch of weight. Now he's 155 pounds and gained, 55 pounds back. And now he's healthy again. And he's not a vegan anymore,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I stopped being vegan too. And What I do know is the living foods, the living raw foods is like the highest for me. Like I feel the best, I sleep the best, etc. But when I did stop just being vegan for the name of being vegan and eating vegan cookies and rice and potatoes, I had that loosen up too. Like I feel chill now. If I do raw, I feel good. If I eat something, not a big deal. Like it feels a lot healthier.
Oh, much healthier mind state, you know. Then you can do these periodic cleanses. And it's just infinite. I have had my cap blown
Mm.
and I'm living my ideal right now, that I've been working towards because I had to go through different phases of the journey, and kind of get rid of some of the book knowledge and the pressures of like social media being like a semi-famous influencer, and so but now that I've relaxed and learned that through my clients mostly, I've learned that through my clients to relax. Once I started relaxing a little more and not putting everything on the food, that my worth wasn't associated with how good that I ate. Now I'm able to really just stay laser sharp. But that being said, the other thing, I've been dealing with the darkness. You have to, that's the number one thing, is that we do all this fancy stuff on the outside and we make it look all polished and we got the lighting and the filters and the editing and everything's perfect. But, deep down inside is our own ignorance. That's the one piece of advice is that's the strongest to me right now on my social media message is don't worry about other people's ignorance. Worry about your own because you have at least a lifetime's worth of ignorance. And now people can get offended if they want. And when I say ignorance, I mean, unless you know the absolute truth of Christ consciousness or enlightenment, and your ego has been just eviscerated into stardust, and there is no more ego left, then you have ignorance. Because until you know what you really are as an eternal presence, then you have the ignorance. And so just getting rid of the I am a body, I am a mind, and getting back to that, until you return back to the pristine source, you have your own ignorance to deal with and don't even waste your time with anyone else because there's various stratospheres along the way.
Yeah.
And if you sit and you worry, if you're here and you're like on level 6 and you're worried about what everyone else is doing from level 1 to 5, you're not going to get to level 7. And then when you get to level 7 and level 8, you realize that what you allow yourself to become is what is actually helping all the people from level 1 to level 7 transform, not by what you say, by judging them or criticizing them. How dare you eat a piece of cheese at your grandma's birthday party? I thought you were vegan,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, you need to just go up. And so that people can just see you at the top of the mountain. And then you sit there and they can just see your aura. Everyone can see it, whether they're aware of it or not. They know the trees exude, they know the grounding works, and they know an enlightened sage when they see one, you know? And so you just sit there and emanate. And when you emanate that out into the world, that's what changes the world, not your lectures and your criticisms and judgments of what they put into their mouth. Because ultimately, you're arguing about tomorrow's poop. It goes in one end and out the other. And
People
we're
make,
all
people make the food the god. That's what they worship. We're going to wrap up. Dan, I just would first say thank you so much for doing this. I had a great time. I think people are really going to like it. If you have any closing thoughts to the people listening, like to take sleep more seriously or a tip or something, feel free. But we'll wrap up here.
definitely take sleep more seriously. Make it a religion. All my friends know. Now, some people have better nervous systems than others, and they can handle a little loss of sleep or whatever. They don't need as much. I just happen to be very highly sensitive and have a lot of childhood trauma and damage is done from pediatricians and stuff like that. So I have to make sleep a religion. So some of you may not have to do that, but probably most of you watching really do and will really benefit from getting a good night's sleep. Temperature is important, 65 to 68 degrees, as dark as you can get it. Turn off all electronic devices. In fact, turn your room into a temple of sleep instead of having all these gadgets and gizmos buzzing and beeping all night long. Put all that crap out into the living room or into the office and make your room a sanctuary of sleep with your wife, your girlfriend, your own self, whatever that you got to do. Because if you get a good night's sleep every night, your life will be much better. I am 100% adamant about it. All my friends know it too. And there's nothing they can say like, hey, dude, there's 20 naked chicks and they all want you, Dan MacDonald, to come. And I'll be like, okay, hopefully they'll be there in the morning when I'm well rested.
There
Okay.
you go. That's what it takes.
Yes, sir. Because then you can handle that business.
Well, Dan, again, thank you. Guys, please sub down below. Got 70 right now, looking to get my first 100. Would really appreciate that. Dan, always great talking with you.
Thanks, AJ. What's your handle
It's called
on
Early Nights on YouTube.
early night? Just that.
Just Early Nights. Yep. And if they type that in, it'll come right up.
Okay, I'll try to put it on this video because I'll probably put the video up because I thought
Cool.
that was
Yeah.
pretty solid info, bro. And a
That
great.
was fantastic. And also follow me on Instagram. I follow Dan. My name is it'll be in the thing as well, Andre Depka. So
Okay, cool, man.
cool.
Thanks, AJ.
Dan, aloha. Take care.
Aloha. Have an epic day, bro.
You too. Bye.
I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.